Hi there, and welcome to the What's New webinar for the latest release of new features within Mission Control. So version 1.53 is going to be available as of the 20th of December 2019. So what we're going to do is just jump in and take a quick look at all of the new features, and then we'll take a closer look through a demo in a moment. So what's new? So we've got a number of new features and many enhancements to existing functionality within the system as well. So major features, we've got a couple of new objects that are going to allow you to keep a track of purchase orders relating to your projects. We've got some enhancements that have been made to the role utilization report, also to the project status report, and we're pulling together some objects that already exist. So being able to link checklist items to user stories, being able to link issues through to checklists and actions as well. And also risks, we've given you the ability to promote a risk into an issue. We've added some additional flexibility around how you configure the timesheet, as well as adding the ability to access user stories from the action pad. And then a few minor enhancements around being able to report at a role level as to which master team someone is assigned to. You've also got the ability to exclude actions from the daily digest, as well as accessing the chatter feed for the requirements and the user stories from the program planner. And we've also made a couple of changes to the project and milestone clone pages. Okay, so looking at those purchase orders, so basically we've added in two new custom objects. So the purchase order sits underneath the project, the purchase order item sits underneath the purchase order. So ultimately what that allows you to do is keep a track of any purchase orders that you might have issued out to suppliers or subcontractors. And then what you're also going to be able to do is actually relate your expenses through to a particular purchase order as well. So keeping track how much of that purchase order commitment has already been paid. So on the role utilization report, we've added in a few different features. So you've now got an additional filter where you can actually group by master team. You've got the ability to choose whether you're looking at the information at an individual person level or just getting a summary at that team level. We've also added in some analytics charts to give you a high-level overview of what the data is telling you, as well as being able to collapse each of those sections. So after we've launched the project status report earlier this year, we've had a lot of positive feedback on that, as well as a few requests from customers as well, which is obviously always great news. So what they were looking to do is have the ability to include some appendices into that report. So we've given you the ability to optionally choose whether you include last week's time logs. You can also include specified issues and any risks that you want to make the client aware of as well. So as I mentioned earlier, the checklist items, what we've done is actually given you the ability to relate a checklist through to a user story. So the concept behind this this feature enhancement is that you're going to be able to build out your user stories, and then within a user story, actually identify what scenarios need testing, and each one of those testing scenarios could be a checklist item within the checklist item manager. So you're identifying a big set of testing items, and then you can track each one of those as you're going through that testing process relating to the user story. And taking that integration further downstream, so once you've done your testing via that checklist item, you're going to have the ability to actually relate issues to specific actions and or checklist items within that action. So to make that as easy as possible, we're introducing a new component called the issue manager. So this will be accessible from the various action pages as well as the checklist item manager, and you're going to be able to quickly build out a set of issues that you're identifying as part of your testing process. You've also got the ability to identify which issues you want to include within that weekly status report. So enhancements that we've made to the risks, we've given you a quick action that is accessible from the detail page or the chatter feed of the risk, and it allows you to promote that risk to an issue. So you may have identified a risk early on in the project, and as as that risk has evolved, you now want to present that as an issue on the project. So that quick action will allow you to do that. And again, as part of the weekly status report enhancement, you can identify which individual risks you want to include. So we've added in some additional settings into the timesheet. So giving you the ability to configure what gets displayed to people. So the additional settings that you can now have control over is whether you actually allow people to access the new action feature, whether you show them the save button, whether you show them the save and submit button, whether you show them the suggested hours, and you can also choose to give them the ability to access the issue manager from the timesheet as well. And then on the action pad, as part of being able to relate user stories to actions, you've now got on the action detail section an extra tab that will show you the user stories that are relating to that action. And then some minor enhancements here. We've got the ability to now see at a role level which team assignment is identified at that master team level. We've also got the ability to exclude certain actions from the daily digest. You can also access the chatter feed for the requirement and the individual user stories from the program planner, as well as applying lightning experience styling to the project and milestone clone pages, and also adding in a projected end date. So as you're changing the start date of your projects, it will give you a projected end date. Okay, so let's jump in and take a closer look at some of these new features. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we've added in the ability to keep a track of your purchase orders in relation to a project. So this scenario would be where you're subcontracting out some of the work that you're doing on the project. You might want to raise a purchase order, issue that to that supplier, and then obviously track their invoices as they come in relation to the purchase order, but also against the project. So what we've done is we've added in the purchase order object and also the purchase order item object. So I'm on a project here. If I'm on the related tab. If I scroll down, you'll see I've now got the ability to create new purchase orders. I'm going to jump into this one that I've already created. So against this, I can obviously put in a summary, keep a track of the status, when it's issued, when it's expected to be delivered, the amount, and then also it will track the amount that's been paid and what's been outstanding, as well as who it's been issued to. So I'm going to click onto my related tab here, and this will show you where I can actually create my purchase order items. So you can see I've got a couple of different items, and each one has a quantity and a unit price, ultimately giving me the total price and the total amount of the purchase order. In addition to that, you can also relate your expenses to the purchase order as well as relating them to the project. So I've got an expense here that I've received from that supplier. I've already logged it and I've already paid it as well. So as well as seeing all of that detail on the purchase order, we also have some new fields on the project record. So if I scroll back to this project here, I'm on the detail tab. I've now got this section available on my project that gives me a summary of the total amount of all of my purchase orders that I've got issued out, what's been paid, and what's outstanding as well. So I have the ability to keep a track at the project level across all individual purchase orders. So we've made a few different changes to the role utilization report. So first of all, you'll see that we've now got these different sections. We've got the ability to actually collapse each one of these. So for example, after you've made your report settings specification, you could be collapsing that out of the way to give yourself more real estate to look at the actual data on the report. So the other thing is we've now got the ability to have a third option on how we filter the data. So obviously we've got the ability to specify at a role level which team they've been assigned to as a master team. So you've now got the ability to look for people where they have a certain team as that master team. We've also added in some analytics charts. So we're going to jump in and make some selections and take a look at that. So I'm selecting two teams. I'm going to leave my group by on role, which is another new feature here. We've got the ability to split group by either the role or the master team. So I'm going to click on go there. So looking at the analytics, I've got my chart here that shows me by person how many hours they've actually done and what the breakdown of those hours are. I can see a total hours chart and a billable hours chart. So this gives me an indication of how everyone in the report has performed against the overall target that they were expected to achieve. And then if I scroll down, obviously the standard look and feel of the report based on each individual person and their hours. So the other feature that we've got is the ability to actually group this by that master team now. Now this only works on the master team filter, but what I can do here is switch over to master team, click on go again. And what that does is actually summarizes it by the team rather than the individual person. So now I've got two teams there. I've got the same information on the hours, but now when I scroll down, instead of looking at individual people, I can see the summary for each of those teams as well as a grand total across all of those teams as well. So the weekly status report has been enhanced by giving you the ability to choose whether you include some appendices into the report, and that's an option that you can specify at an individual project level. So as a reminder, the three appendices that you can include are last week's time logs, any outstanding issues you want to make the client aware of, and any outstanding risks that you want to make the client aware of. So looking at this example here, I've got a project and I'm on the detail tab, and you'll see, as well as the generate weekly project status report field, there are now three additional fields that you can specify at a project level. So obviously if I want to include the time logs, I tick this one and then tick these to include the issues and the risks. So then in terms of the actual report, you obviously get the report as it was originally, but then scrolling down, depending on which appendices you're including, it will show you the additional pages. So as a reminder, the time log shows you any time logs created last week, any outstanding issues, and any outstanding risks. So obviously, you might have some issues or risks that you might not want to publish into the report. So in terms of including them in the report, there is a field on the risk and on the issue. So you'll see here, I'm on a risk here, and I've specified that I would like to include this in the weekly status report. And likewise, on my issues, I can go into each individual risk and specify whether I would like to, I could go to each individual issue and specify whether that gets included in the weekly status report as well. So we've added in a new relationship from the checklist item manager up to a user story. And the benefit of that is you can actually relate checklist items to specific user stories. So I'm on my program planner here. You can see I've got a requirement. It tells me there are some user stories and some checklist items. Now, if I click in to take a look at the detail, obviously I'm able to build out those individual user stories, and I could also build out the checklist items. Now, the benefit of this relationship is I'm able to relate individual checklists to a specific user story parent. So the benefit of this, you'll be able to build out your checklists as a list of testing scenarios that you need to deliver as part of ensuring that user story has been acceptably delivered. So as you're going in, you can edit each one, and you can see there that you've got the ability to specify which user story it relates to. And likewise, if we're creating a new one, we can go in and look up the user story as well. So following on from that integration between user stories and checklist items, we've also added in a relationship that allows you to associate issues to actions and or checklist items. So the benefit of that is it will provide you with the ability to manage issues in context of a particular action or checklist. And in order to assist you in managing that more efficiently, we've included a new component into the solution called the Issue Manager. Now you access the Issue Manager by clicking on the icon, this whistle icon here, and wherever you see that it's yellow, it indicates that there are issues already in relation to that record. So I'm going to click into here, and this is going to open up the Issue Manager for me. So similar to the issue log, we've got the ability to quickly create new issues. So I'm just going to quickly select, what it might relate to, and then put in a test issue there. So that immediately adds that into the list. Now I can double click in there and actually add in some more detail as well. So I might want to give it a status, a category, and so on. Now, in addition to this, we can click on any of the headers to sort. We've got the ability to apply filters as well. So I can go through, put in some filters. Like normal, you can save those filters to be used ongoing. And as well as editing the records, you can delete them. And obviously, similar to the issue log, you can click these to resolve them as well. So you're able to access the issue manager from a variety of places. Obviously, we've come at it in this scenario from the action pad. You can also get access to it from the whiteboard, from the project builder, from the timesheet, the scheduler action edit modal, and the checklist item manager as well. So wherever you see that whistle icon, you'll be able to open up the issue manager and create and manage existing issues. The main enhancement we've made to the risk is the ability to actually quickly promote it to an issue. So obviously you're tracking risks, as we mentioned before, and you've got the ability to say, okay, well, this risk has now materialized and we need to create it as an issue. So what we've done is included a quick action on the object that allows you to quickly create an issue, pulling in the details from that risk. Now you can do that in one of two ways. You can do it via the chatter feed by clicking here. So I'm obviously on the risk log within an individual project. I've selected a risk, go through to the chatter feed, and then click on promote issue. And you'll see it will merge in some existing information as well as allowing me to make selections. So I can quickly say, okay, well, who is going to be the issue owner? So I can go and relate that to a specific role. I can put in some more detail to help triage the issue as well. So once I'm ready, I scroll down and click create. So that now has gone away, created that issue. Now, as well as doing it from the risk log, I can also do it from the individual risk record as well. So the quick action is also available via a button on the page. So very similar, if I click that there, it's going to pull in all of the detail relating from that risk to allow me to quickly create that new issue. So we've added in some additional settings to the timesheet that will allow you to configure how you manage and what you display to your individual users. So what I'll do is first of all just jump in and show you the additional settings. So we've got the ability to hide the new action section. We can also hide the save button, the hide, save and submit button, and the suggested hours. And you'll also see here that we've got the ability to include the issue manager. So what I'll do first of all is just say that I don't want to see that. And at the moment you can see that we've got that whistle icon. So I'm just going to click on save, and that's going to remove that whistle icon. So I'm now saying I don't want to give my users the ability to actually access that issue manager. So obviously if I change my mind, I can come back and turn that back on. So I'll save that, and then I'll just talk you through the different sections so you know what we're referring to. So this section here is where you can add a new action to your timesheet. So obviously the timesheet loads up with anything that's been assigned to you, but you might get pulled in to work on something and you can quickly add it in order for you to log time. Now, some customers have said that they don't really want to give their users the ability to do that. So now if I go back to my settings and say, actually, I would like to hide that new action section, click on save. Now, if I come down, I've removed that new action section within the timesheet. So I'm going to turn that one back on. What I'm going to do this time is hide the save button. So if I scroll down, you'll see now that the save timesheet button has disappeared, and all I can do is do the save and submit or save my suggested hours. So again, if I want to turn that back on, it's just a case of unchecking that box. Now, alternatively, I might say, actually, we don't ever do time approvals, so I don't want to confuse my users, and I'm going to hide that button instead. So click on save. So now if I scroll down, I can see my save timesheet because I turned that back on, but you can see I've turned off the save and submit button. So again, just jump back in and turn that one back on. So the other feature, so we've got our suggested hours, which are obviously these grayed out numbers, and the white button that allows you to save all of those suggested hours. So again, we've had customers ask if they could hide that from the timesheet. So just by setting that box to true, what that's going to do is remove any of those grayed suggested hours, and it will also remove the save suggested button down there as well. So I'm just going to switch that back on. Now, I've been doing this on my own individual timesheet, but you'll be pleased to know for those of you that are managing the timesheet settings centrally via the console, you've also got the ability to now manage all of those settings directly from here as well. We've made a small enhancement to the action pad that will give you the ability to access the user stories that relate to an action. So obviously when you're building out requirements and user stories via the program planner, and then you use the project builder to convert that requirement to an action, the relationship with the user stories gets carried over to that action. So now when you're on the action pad and you click onto an action that does have user stories, you've got this tab here that gives you the ability to get in and view the individual user stories, as well as building out additional stories as well. So giving you a quick way of accessing the related information directly from the action pad. Okay, so just taking a quick look at those minor enhancements again. So we've included a field directly on the role that lets you associate a master team. So the main benefit of this is you're going to be able to use this within your reports when you're trying to group your roles to see, okay, well, how much work has been allocated to each person, but then having the ability to group that data by that master team. So as you're editing your role record via the custom page and making changes between those team assignments, it will get updated for you automatically. However, if you've already made those changes, you may want to come in and modify that field directly, and you would primarily do that via a list view. The other thing that we've added in is the ability to exclude actions from the daily digest. So we've had customers request when they're creating new actions, they don't necessarily want to have that pushed out on the digest. So you've now got a checkbox when you're creating records. You can choose to exclude them from that digest. On the program planner, we've given you the ability to access the chatter feed at the requirement level. So if I click on here, that's going to open up chatter for the requirement. And then if I click into that requirement and access the user stories tab, I've also got the ability to access chatter at that user story level. And finally, on our clone pages, so for our Lightning Experience users, we've applied Lightning Experience styling to the page. And the other feature that we've added in is a projected end date. So as you're playing around and you're trying to work out when this is going to start, the forecasted end date will also change, giving you an indication of whether you've allowed enough time to hit the deadline you're working towards. Okay, so now that we've covered off all of the new functionality, let's take a look at the release schedule. So it's going to be available as of the 20th of December for you to manually go and upgrade by clicking the Get It Now button on the App Exchange. Typically, we roll out to sandboxes, but with the holiday season coming out, we're pushing that out from 1 week right out to 2 weeks. So basically, we're going to be upgrading all the sandbox orgs on the 4th of January, and then a week after that, we'll be upgrading all production orgs. So as of the 11th of January, it will get pushed out to anyone that hasn't already manually upgraded. So with all of that said, again, I'd like to say thank you. Obviously, we value your custom, and hope you're excited about these new features. And we're already well underway on the next release as well. So any questions or feedback, we'd love to hear from you, and happy holidays.